A new report by Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth sheds light on 45 different cases of homicides and suicides among boys in the province from 2009 to 2018. The report, called Finding the Way Back, reviewed the deaths of 45 boys between the ages of 12 and 17. 37 of the 45 cases, or 82%, were Indigenous boys. The report says 47% of the boys experienced physical or sexual abuse, 69% of the boys were in care at one point in their life, 64% were involved in the justice system, 69% had poor school attendance, and 76% of the boys had problems with substance abuse.
We looked intensively at their stories, the services that were involved in their lives. We spoke with family members of a number of the boys to talk about their experiences.
In 2014, homicide rates for Indigenous men in Manitoba were the highest across the country, and between 2011 and 2016, suicide rates were highest among Indigenous men. The report says the situations the Indigenous boys were in can be linked back to the intergenerational trauma and colonization.
Being so isolated from everything out of the world and having such minimal access to any kind of resources to help guide them and keep them kind of going down the right path.
The report says more focus is needed on helping Indigenous boys succeed. Shamattawa First Nation youth advocate Daryl Schwader says the issues in these communities is a constant, never-ending cycle. Schwader says the biggest change he has seen in the past 10 years of working as a youth advocate is in addictions.
It's taken over families, it's breaking families, even kids as young as 9 years old. I know that they're high. You know, you can tell when a kid is high, when they're intoxicated or under some kind of influence.
Manitoba NDP critic for families Amanda Laughlin says the PCs were told to take action 3 years ago but have done nothing about it. They cannot continue to ignore the warnings that the Children's Advocate, families, and other experts have been sounding for years. Young people are counting on us to get it right. Crone says they are calling for several government departments to implement safe interventions for parents with substance use, calls for the Department of Education to do two things: to develop an Indigenous inclusion strategy and develop initiatives on anti-racism education and anti-Indigenous racism, wanting both provincial and federal governments to have a youth gang prevention strategy, and finally, Crone is calling for the development of a youth addiction strategy.
It's just really the unique needs of some of the boys in Manitoba. And so that's the other part of what we talk about today in the report, is not only what was going on for those 45 boys, but what is it that Manitoba needs to do in order to prevent some of those suicide and homicide deaths.
If you or someone you know is in crisis and needs help, there are resources available. Feel free to reach out to any of the numbers on your screen. In Winnipeg, Alex Karpa, City News.